Welcome to another edition of Suffolk Matters, where Suffolk County meets the men and women of Suffolk AME. News and views you can't hear anywhere else. And before we meet this week's guest, here's a quick reminder. AME's May Day Music Festival is coming up on May 11th. Join us for live national and local bands, vendors, food and beer, fun for all ages. Get tickets at maydaymusicfestival.com. Kids under 12 are free. All right, so this morning's guest is Nick DeBello, Vice President, Suffolk AME. Nick, thanks for joining us this morning.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So, lots going on, a bunch of news in a lot of areas, but one of the things I wanted to maybe spend some time talking about is something that you've been very active in and working really hard on, and that's specifically focusing on wellness opportunities for our members. So, and the basic concept was, we do things to try and help our members with their financial health, mental health, and, obviously having access to, medical programs through employment, supplemental benefits such as vision and dental and whatever else. But we ended up talking for a little bit and getting into, what can we offer people in terms of, fitness opportunities, fitness goals, nutritional advice, all of that type of stuff. So why don't you talk a little bit about, what you've gotten yourself into?
What have I gotten myself into? Quite a bit, it seems like. Crazy undertaking. What you and I have discussed in the past, and many of the other members on the Wellness Committee, and just members in general, is the overall need for our membership to engage in some sort of program to better themselves. Sure. One of the things we notice is a lot of times people, if they tend to get ill often, or it's generally because of a lack of taking care of themselves, of not eating properly, not dieting right. So this Wellness Committee, it's incredible because we get to start from the ground up. I mean, we're molding what we want to mold it to be.
Sure.
So we've partnered up with a number of businesses within the community. Initially, Unique Fitness. They've got a number of locations for us. But just recently, with a couple of other gyms, one of them called Body and Balance. They are a complete wellness center, which is incredible. They have masseuses, acupuncture, reflexology, physical training, and an actual gym there as well.
Sure.
And we also partnered with CF Metalworks. Not everybody likes to do the gym thing.
Right.
So they're a CrossFit group, and Big Frank is this huge guy who's actually participated in the X Games. And
wow.
Yeah, very lively personality. And that, although CrossFit has never been my thing, it's incredible in that it's a very supportive environment. So the people who seem to get into that really embrace the community
of its own. Sure,
absolutely. So I'm hoping some of our members will jump in on that. So.
Yeah. So, and a lot of what we did, research based, really did tie together physical fitness, mental well being, and overall happiness in life. And another thing that we noticed was it wasn't because anyone wanted to, maybe eat the wrong things, or, not get out and do some form of exercise. There are a ton of jobs, in the world that require you to kind of sit in one space for a long period of time. And when you were active when you were younger, and now you're 20 years into the job and you're kind of eating the way you used to when you were younger. And one of the things we realized was, there was a level of education that was missing. If you think that some of these restaurant chains aren't fast food because they let you sit at a table and they give you that food on a plate, I promise you it's fast food. They cook it in another part of the country and they freeze it and they ship it out. And if you go to a restaurant and say, "Can I get that without ingredient X?" and they say no, chances are it's because it was prepared by somebody else in some other part of the country and driven out to you. And maybe that gets me into a little bit of trouble with some restaurant chains, but be that as it may, making sure that people have access to education, to learn that, the best foods that work best for your body, give you the right amount of energy, don't keep you up late at night. Some people, they get into this kind of caffeine craze. and then it affects their sleep at night, and then they need the caffeine the next day. And so there are a lot of pieces of information that some little communities in Suffolk County, they understand very well, and not everybody else. And so having the ability to sit down from the ground up, do this research, find ways to get our members involved in these programs, because they want to, because now they know better. I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's tremendous. And we have so many members. Again, we constantly talk about the 900 plus titles.
Sure.
We have people in the health department that are looking forward to working with us. There's a Deborah Rappel. I can't think of her actual title at this point, but she does a diabetes prevention program and a smoking cessation program. So she's looking to work on doing something specifically for AME members and their families. Currently, she's got programs that any of our members can engage in at this point anyway, but she really wants to focus it towards our membership at some point, and we're hoping that's something we can bring to people too.
Sure. And there are a lot of resources out there. Where to begin? What is the most important piece of information to get people started? And so that's why we're doing the legwork, so to speak, to kind of figure out a process. Because at the end of the day, we want our workers, our members rather. We want them to feel safe at their job. We want them to feel rewarded for the work that they do. We're running a large suburban economy, and that's a big deal in and of itself. But sometimes people's happiness isn't tied exclusively to their paycheck. Sometimes there's aches and pains. Sometimes there's the need for medicine that has side effects that cause, and all of these preventable situations. I think, we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't try and in some way give people access to the resources necessary to make the changes that would improve their life, their overall happiness.
Oh, absolutely. And I think as we've discussed in the past, one of the things we would like to do is make it where our website. So we have SuffolkAME.com,
Sure.
And we have a members only section of it. So hopefully we can get up a wellness page there that's got articles from day to day where people can interact with each other about the struggles they're having and the successes. It's important to highlight and both of those.
Right.
If I'm doing well, it's nice to be able to say, hey, I'm doing this thing. I just beat my personal record.
Right.
If I'm struggling because I plateaued for a couple of weeks and maybe I was out with the family and I ate some bad stuff and I feel bad about it,
Right.
Having that support system where other people have gone through similar, if not the same things,
Right.
it's a great way to be able to maybe help boost my morale or whomever else needs it. The person,
Right. And that's usually right out of the gate. Someone's like, well, I'm fine. I've been doing what I've been doing, or whatever else. But in the back of their head, they're like, maybe I could be doing a little better. But you almost wonder, you'll worry, I guess, like, well, I'm going to start eating less of this food and more of that food. And what if somebody makes a negative comment? What if someone asks me, I hear you've been, trying to go for runs. You don't look any different. Like that negative stuff almost makes it very easy for the person to say, you know what, never mind, I'm not going to do that. And it's very important to have that community that's behind you saying, no, go do your thing. It will pay off. It is going to be better in the long run. And again, something like wellness, because it has that ability to touch every aspect of your life, is going to have great impact over everything, not just at work, but at home, relationships, the way you feel about the weather that day, all the way around the board. And also, expose you to a community of people that are positive thinking and motivated and pro-life, not pro-life in a political sense, but, all about, living.
Absolutely. And wellness is a lifetime challenge. So you spoke earlier about people with caffeine, or maybe they drink their energy drinks. And
right. I don't know anyone like that.
Nah, nobody in this room. So you have some people who maybe drink too much of that. They fall asleep a little too late at night. They work the next day. They've got to get up when they've got to get up. And you're already behind the ball going into your next day because of that cycle.
You're right. You're stressing yourself out because of a decision the night before, but you might not be making that connection. You sometimes when there's just enough time that passes between something you do and how you feel later, you don't make that connection. And sometimes food is really a big part of that. I remember the documentary Supersize Me with Morgan Spurlock. And he would go into McDonald's and he would eat something, and then he would describe how he feels. Wow, I'm boosted up right now. And then, about a half hour later, he was crashing and he was just documenting. And I feel like a lot of people learned something interesting. And that was, in his experience, going to McDonald's was overall bad for him. But I know too many people who are like, yeah, I wouldn't eat McDonald's while they're at Burger King, eating Burger King. Fast food is fast food. It is made from the cheapest possible materials to pass as food in a very quick way to give you something to eat. And maybe that's not something to have every single day, or it will have a negative impact over the course of your life.
Absolutely. You look at these fast food places, I mean, they're for profit. So they're there to make money. And one of the things they try to do is get you addicted to the kind of product that they have. So some of the additives to that food is meant to, bring you back and draw you in. So You're going to have, I hate to put somebody on the same level as maybe somebody with another addiction, but that's how they try to get you. It's very real.
Yeah.
They want
and the bright colors, the fun commercials, nobody on any of those commercials that I've seen that I can recall look like someone who eats at that restaurant.
Nope.
And there's a reason why.
There is a reason why. Absolutely.
So, and they say, it's what you eat and what you do. And I got to tell you, that's absolutely correct. And, something, that's probably a good choice for someone if they're going to make a food choice. It's what you eat and it's what you do. Don't ever eat there.
Absolutely.
That's a good choice.
Oh, yeah.
So,
absolutely. So I guess in talking about wellness also, we have a couple of incredible things too. It's not just the stuff you do physically or the monetary stuff. It's about quality of life and enjoying yourself when you're with your family or your loved ones, or even if you're alone. So I know on May 11th, we have this big music festival coming up.
Sure.
And I would like to think that all the people who go are going to have a great day that will enhance their wellness.
Sure. And, a lot of effort went into exactly that. Trying to think about all the little details. You get to hear about some festivals that have gone horribly wrong, and that's because people planned for certain things and not others. So a lot went into making sure that no matter what happens, you go, you're going to have a great memory, you're going to have a great experience.
No, absolutely. Between the headliners, we have the Gin Blossoms, Steve Earle,
Jesse
Malin,
Yep.
Brian Fallon, tons of local bands that are phenomenal. It's an event that is to celebrate community and unionism, and it was priced for that specific intent.
Sure.
$35 to have 10 hours of music is incredible. You're not going to find that anywhere else.
Right. Food, beer, area for kids, and that really came together beautifully. We had the little petting zoo, cotton candy popcorn. Now that we've talked about fitness, obviously don't eat that all the time, but maybe at a festival it'll be okay. But we also got School of Rock to come in and put younger musicians on stage to perform for the kids in the kids section, which really gives them a great experience too. And it's not something that you see too often. So
no, not at all. As you know, I have a 6 and a 4-year-old, and my 6-year-old Nico loves piano, loves to sing. So for him, he'll be able to see other kids, his peers,
right.
And hopefully that'll help inspire him to continue what he's doing.
Sure.
Because not everybody that he's friends with does the same kind of thing. So seeing it.
Day before Mother's Day, so it's a great opportunity to either bring your kids down and have a fun day, or, dads, maybe you want to give mom a break for a little bit, bring the kids down, give her a little time to just, hang out and breathe a sigh of relief before the craziness of Mother's Day. But either way you choose to do it, it's going to be great for the kids.
Yeah, it should be a phenomenal day. I know my family, we're going to have the kids there for a couple hours, and then mom's going to get to, like you just said, take a deep breath, relax, enjoy her friends and community that we've created with AMA, and she's really looking forward to it, as are the kids. It's a day they've got circled on the calendar. They're really looking forward to partaking in this event. It's going to be tremendous.
Yeah, no, and a lot of good feedback out in the world. People are really looking forward to this. Our partners in the Long Island Federation of Labor, AFL-CIO, they're really doing so much to make sure that this all goes exactly how we have envisioned when we started this process and putting it all together. So, the people behind the show, so to speak, putting this all together, really believe in the day, and they're doing that extra something to really just make sure that when someone comes in, no matter who it is, there's going to be something there for them, and it's going to be a good day.
Yeah, and I'd be remiss not to say we joke around sometimes about the unofficial ninth executive board officer, Ryan McGarry.
Sure.
Our AME guy. He does everything for us. I mean, he's a tremendous asset for our organization and for the community as a whole. But he's really worked his butt off to secure sponsorships, to promote the event, to get the different permits. I mean, we were talking about kid stuff in the petting zoo. I'm like,
Sure.
Did you get me a llama? And he goes right into, well, you need this for that, you need this for that. I mean, I was just joking, and he actually had an answer for why he couldn't get me a llama this year. But next year, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe they spit.
They do.
So maybe we got to get a little llama helmet, and then that'll work it out. But all things considered, really looking forward to that day. Really looking forward to launching different phases of this wellness initiative that we're talking about. And again, the I guess the unseen positive effect on all of this, in addition to just generally helping everyone, feel a little better and be a little more educated, make, better choices for themselves, for their overall life, is, all of these preventable illnesses. We'll see those drop off, and that will be less of a draw on the cost of healthcare overall, and we have a very large membership. We're about half of the entire county workforce. So this initiative inside of AME, I think, will have a positive effect for the residents of Suffolk County also. Everybody, when you come in to see the government, you're probably coming in to see an AME member, and you probably need some help, or you're dealing with some sort of a situation that might be difficult, and it'd be great to know that the person that you're dealing with is okay. And is feeling okay. If they had that, that extra caffeine the night before, and now they're groggy, you don't want that piece of paper to accidentally go into the wrong stack or whatever else. So I think this will be good for everybody.
Absolutely. And to your point with first appearances, I mean, you drive into Suffolk County, more likely than not, you're going to see one of our DPW highway guys out there.
Sure.
And you want to know that they're all right with their job. It's physically intense, and they do such a tremendous job.
Yeah.
But, those guys got to take care of themselves.
People come to Long Island because of the beach. Somebody has to make sure that water is safe to go into. I think maybe to some extent people might just think, well, the water's just there and you can go in it. But somebody's out there all summer long, weekends, weekdays, checking that whole perimeter to make sure that there's nothing, that would cause the need to say, hey, you can't swim today.
Yeah.
I mean, there's work that goes into just about everything to make it so that you can just kind of do your thing. That's why, that's what taxes pay for.
Absolutely. I mean, you have the medical examiners taking care of those waters and checking the qualities of them. And then the things we take for granted. We talk about wellness, and you want to be in good shape. You want to be able to take your shirt off or be in your swimsuits, but you got to make sure there's no bugs out there. So our Vector guys who have to be healthy and strong to carry the equipment around that they have.
Sure.
We want to make sure that they're able to get to their jobs, and that's part of wellness.
Our health department personnel make sure that people in the public are aware, hey, listen, this is a sign of too much sun. You should wear this type of sunscreen. This, that, or the other product is potentially a scam. Don't do, So there are a lot of moving parts inside of Suffolk County government that make it so that everybody can have a day, whether it's a good day or a bad day, they can go about what they have to go about. And it allows businesses to function and just keep this whole economy moving.
Yeah, and that's at essence what our members do for the community is we do make this economy function and move the way it's got to. We've literally got our hands in everything. I mean, there's nothing that people do that's government-driven or even privately driven that our guys don't have something to do with.
Some sort of,
You go to a deli, well, our guys got to inspect, make sure everything is up to par.
Right, right. Temperatures of the meats have to be right. Otherwise, the meats are going to turn, and if the meats turn, you can't cut it up and put it on a sandwich, and we want to walk into a deli with the confidence that, if you're going to get your kid a sandwich, they're going to be able to eat it and not feel bad that night. Because,
Absolutely.
that's another way to stay up late at night without caffeine is having a kid have an adverse effect or a adverse reaction to something that they ate.
Yeah, you talk about the confidence that the community has in law enforcement. They do a tremendous job for us out here in Suffolk. I mean,
Absolutely,
they really
yeah.
do. But our guys are the backbones in the sense that, those cars that they're patrolling out in, our guys are the ones making sure they're up to par, that they're safe to be out in.
Right.
We have the guys, we at crime scenes. I mean, again, we mentioned the medical examiners before, but they do so much for our community. They're the ones at the crime scenes doing the autopsies. But
Well, and on top of that, death investigation in general. Any person passing in Suffolk County has to go through that office to some capacity.
Yep.
So
So it really is incredible what our guys do, and we want to continue to provide them with more because they deserve it. They deserve everything that we can.
They put their all. Last week we talked a little bit about the hypothetical scenario. We had to change some details and omit names because it's an ongoing case, but there was a workers' comp case, and in the scenario we're discussing a crossing guard who a few minutes after their shift realized that an additional student needed to be crossed. They crossed that student and they were struck by a vehicle, keeping the student out of harm's way, and that's the kind of work ethic our members have in any aspect of the county where they're working, and that's great for the taxpayer. You don't want your school crossing guard getting hit by a car, but you don't want to hear that the school crossing guard stepped away and allowed the student to get harmed. And that level of dedication really should come with some level of reward. And for us to be able to, give them some little tips, access to information, to help them make positive improvements in their life, that's going to make not only their working day but their life better. I think it's kind of a responsibility we have.
Absolutely, and I think we're getting there. As we continue to cultivate relationships within the community, we try to work with different businesses that want to work with us, and one of the great parts of partnership is where both sides mutually benefit from it.
Sure.
So we want to work with these different places, whether they're gyms, whether they're restaurants, any place anybody can think of that brings value to our members. We would also like to bring value to that business. So that's something we've really been focusing on with wellness in the sense of monetarily.
Sure.
There are a lot of...
And what business wouldn't want to have potential access to another 10,000 people, right? When you couple our active workers with the retirees, a majority of which stay in Suffolk County, that's a lot of people. And then, those are just the individuals. That's not their family. That's not their neighbors. That's not their friends. It's a large pool of people. And we spend some time making sure that the businesses that we deal with are actually going to be good for our members.
Absolutely. I mean, we don't want to just work with, I don't want to give bad names, but, the quality of the business has to match the quality of our workforce.
Sure.
And our guys are top notch, as we both know.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason why we don't put McDonald's coupons on our website.
Exactly.
If we don't feel it's overall in our members' best interest, we shy away from it. Now, everybody obviously has individual choice. They can do what they want. And we just want to make sure that every step of the way, any way we can, we do the best possible thing for our members.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you, and I'm thrilled with this board and even the board of directors in general. I got to say the buy-in has been fairly tremendous. So we can get all these discounts and we can put them on a website, or one of the biggest ways that or people we rely on as a unit presidents to actually get out to their membership and say, hey, the executive board secured this awesome deal. You need to know about it.
Right.
Because if they don't know, how great is the deal? They don't even know it exists. So
Sure.
the messaging is so key. And that's been one of the great things we've been working on lately, too, is the standard for the unit officers, which I'm proud of the work we're doing with that as well.
Yeah, making sure that those people that represent this union are doing everything they can to do exactly that. And we had a recent discussion where as a group of people were upset with the way something was happening inside of their unit, a little subset of our overall union. And we did remind them that, listen, if you don't take the time, and this goes into elections in general, but if you don't take the time to get to know who's looking to represent you and whether or not they can represent you and whether or not they actually have your best interests in mind, you're going to end up with what you end up with. And sometimes you get a bad player. When we look at things politically in terms of, local, state, federal elections, doesn't matter. If you don't get involved in the process and educate yourself to some degree. I mean, it's an election year in Suffolk County. You've got to know who the people are. There are going to be people who have an interesting catchphrase, or that maybe they have a mannerism that you're like, this person appears to be confident. But you need to know more than that. It's more than how do you sound, what can you do, what experience do you have, and what is the impetus for change you're going to put into place. So
no, and I agree. The membership as a whole needs to learn, and many of them do a tremendous job already. So I shouldn't say needs to learn, but the ability to vet who has your best interest and not their own best interest is so important as we move forward with different elections, and that's why we've created a number of standards that the leadership of each unit has to actually perform and engage in. And if they don't, then there has to be recourse, because if you have one bad unit or unit president and they're not delivering the message, let's say your unit's 150 people, they're not delivering the message, ultimately what happens is we have issues where
people feel like they're not being represented.
Yeah.
They ask questions, they don't get truthful answers, they're manipulated, and ultimately that leads you to think that that's how everything is. And there actually are a lot of areas inside of AME where we've got people working really hard to make sure that everybody's getting what they need, and access to information, representation, all of that stuff. And then, you have some areas where, let's call it apathy, maybe settled in. Mm-hmm. And because nobody cared about the outcome one way or the other, the persons or person who stepped forward had a personal agenda, and they went to execute that personal agenda. And that becomes problematic, because now for all those people that are being quote-unquote represented by someone with a personal agenda, their impression of what it is to be in a union, what it is to work for the government, all of this, encompasses all, their worldview, so to speak, when it relates to their work life.
Absolutely. And, with 8 full-time released officers between the president, the executive vice president, and all the titles down the line, 8 people to represent 6,000 is a tremendous undertaking. And I think we're doing a phenomenal job with it because of the board of directors. Sure. But if you have an instance where an executive board officer is, let's say, given 3 to 4 hours to help a situation with one unit, maybe set up a meeting, maybe get something planned, you have an officer from that unit who decides, I'm not going to advertise it. Well, that one person who could have been helping 5,700 other people in other units just wasted 3 hours of union time.
Sure.
And there is a trickle to all of.
We got to say that does happen, and there have been times where we've put a ton of effort and energy to bring people to our members and say, hey, here's something you need to know about. This is going to be great for you. And the people who were supposed to get that message to them didn't even bother. And they didn't do it once. They've done it every single time. It certainly on the surface appears willful.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely a disservice to those members who need representation there. And that's why it's going to be very important for us to make sure that those members understand when it comes time to elect your leadership to represent you, make sure that they're going to represent you, that they can and they will represent you.
Yeah, and as a member, you have that responsibility. It's not, it's like a gym membership and you don't go to the gym.
Right.
You're spending your money. What good is that? Right. If you live in a township, you should know who your town councilman is, who your legislators are. You got to be aware of what the issues at hand are and how they're being resolved and by who.
Sure. Sure.
If you're not part of the process, you're part of the problem.
Right, right, and so when you talk about it in terms of local politics, if you don't understand the issues that are at play, the people who are making the decisions and what they intend to do, it's almost in a sense, I guess maybe use a catchphrase. It's something that's going to happen because of you, or it's something that's going to happen to you, and you're probably better off something happening because of you, because you were aware and involved. So, and that that plays out on any election, but it has an effect even inside unions. Nothing is perfect. No system is perfect and just works on its own. It takes dedicated people caring about the outcome and working hard to make sure that the best possible thing can happen for the most amount of people.
Absolutely, and that's a source of pride I have for the group we currently have. Is despite efforts sometimes for people not to get the information out, it hasn't deterred the members of this board and most of the board of directors from fulfilling their obligations. And I see people putting even more effort in to offset
Sure.
the lack of work that's been done.
They're proud of their successes.
Absolutely.
And as are we, and that raises us all up.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that long ago. We just rocked Albany. First and foremost, we got Joe DiStefano elected, which was tremendous.
Sure.
An AME candidate, but then to see the masses go up to Albany and represent our union in support of Joe,
Sure.
who is in support of us, and then see all the elected just looking back in the hall saying, who are those guys? And then realizing who we are.
Right.
Tremendous. It was a statement.
It was a
loud
long,
one.
It was a long time coming because too many decisions are made in Albany that have an effect on the lives in Suffolk County, and there are a number of groups that do go up to Albany, and AME, I think, was absent or ineffective in years past, and it's a very important aspect of what we do. So I mean, and we've talked about lots of things today. We've talked about wellness. We've talked about the May Day Festival coming up, MaydayMusicFestival.com. Threw it in there. We're talking about political action. We're talking about internal politics, external politics, and Nick, there's so much more that we could talk about, but we are running out of time, or have, I guess, officially run out of time. So I want to thank you for coming in and chatting with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I want to thank our listeners, and we'll see you again next week.